Joining us on the line right now is Rod Wheeler, former Washington, D.C. homicide detective, a Fox News Channel law enforcement expert, owner of Rod Wheeler and Associates. We wanted to have you on, Rod, to talk about this case of Hannah Graham, the missing Northern Virginia girl who was going to school down at UVA. What happened to her? That's the big question. But Rod, before we get into it, I have lots of questions. But listen, I want you to sort of set up a little bit of information here. There is a person who is a suspect. Well, I wouldn't say suspect. A person of interest in this particular case. His name is Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr., 32-year-old man. The last person seen with Hannah Graham on the night she disappeared.
Exactly. Police say that Matthew, who is 32 years old, is the one buying the drinks, and that Graham, who is just 18, had already drank plenty. They leave together, too. Police believe in his car, which they're testing for fibers.
And then Matthews shows up at the police department after it is known that police want to talk to him, and there's this weird moment that happens.
Police say Matthew, who they say is seen in this Facebook photo, walked into their headquarters Saturday, asked for a lawyer, spoke with one, and then walked out an hour later without answering their questions. They say he sped away from the station at a high speed, and they've issued a warrant for his arrest, charging him with reckless driving.
All right, so now here's my question for you, Rod. When a guy like this shows up at a police department and he's a person of interest in the case, he wants to speak to a lawyer. That's a little odd, that's a little strange, but why didn't they just make arrangements to make sure the guy couldn't leave until they were through with him?
Well, I think, Brian, first of all, good morning, guys. I think that's the question that a lot of people have. But let's go back just a little bit, and I like the way you kind of described up to the point in which he walked into the police station. I think it's important for the listeners to know that Matthews never voluntarily just turned himself in for any reason. Matthews got involved and decided to come into the police station after the police were able to identify him through photographs and through video. Now, there was a period, guys, of about 3 to 4 days in which Matthews was nowhere around. And see, that's where the issue is with the police department right now. They're trying to figure out where was Matthews a week ago from Saturday and Sunday. And those would have been the 2 days right after Hannah went missing. They cannot account for his whereabouts for that weekend. And I think that's why they have this warrant for him today, and that's why they do want to talk to him. But Matthews is not talking to the police. He immediately lawyered up and said, I'm not going to talk to my lawyer.
But how did you get from the point of being in the police station as a person of interest to walking away? I mean, did they not have any reason to stop him? Did they have no legal reason to keep him there?
Well, at the time, they felt like they did not. But again, let's go back a little bit. They did have a reason, and I think they kind of regret missing this opportunity. Here's the reason. Matthews admitted to the police when they executed the search warrant that he was with Hannah at the bar that night and he bought her some drinks. Well, if he admitted that, then what he's saying, in essence, is that he contributed to the delinquency of a minor.
That's right.
Because he knew she was underage. Well, guess what? That would have been the police opportunity right there to arrest him.
Right.
Because they could have arrested him, and then they could have kept him then, and then they should have drilled him. But perhaps they missed that opportunity. So why do we have this warrant for him now for reckless driving? Well, it is a reckless driving charge, but the police really want to get this guy back on their turf so that they can try to talk to him again.
But let's be clear here. The reckless driving is him eluding the police who were trying to tail him, right? That's the reckless driving he was engaged in?
Exactly. And see, what they're trying to do, Larry, is keep the pressure on Matthews. And they need to keep the pressure on Matthews because I don't know if you guys heard, I did a show this morning, and there was new information that just came out overnight.
Okay.
One of my sources is telling me, and this is a reliable source, but this is not from the police department itself, that the police found fresh mud, dirt, and grime on the tires of Mr. Matthews' car when they confiscated it last week. They believe that mud came from somewhere in that area, but it was fresh enough whereby they know that mud got on that car probably right around the time Hannah went missing. That's the connection. That's the nexus that they have to Mr. Matthews.
So hold on and help me out with the timeline here. They acquired the mud off of his vehicle before he was in the police station with them, or after?
Before.
And yet they listen. I always put myself in the role of the parent of the child in this case because I've got a teenage daughter who's just a couple of years younger than Hannah, and I would be going nuts on the police right now if they had this guy and they didn't keep them. I mean, I hate criticizing the cops in the middle of an investigation, but this could have been handled better, couldn't it?
Well, let me just say, I think the Charlottesville Police Department is doing the best job that they can. They do have the assistance of the FBI and the Virginia State Police now, which is a good thing. And were there opportunities missed? I think so, and I think they believe that. But it's still, this investigation is still a missing persons investigation.
We may never find this guy now.
We may never find. Well, we'll find Matthew. I believe Matthew is going to turn himself in today. I think he is, because I think he's trying to position himself in a positive light, even though I believe Matthew is involved with the disappearance of Hannah.
Yeah, and there have been some interesting other disappearances down there, right?
You're exactly right. As a matter of fact, over the past 5 years, there's been 5 missing individuals, including Hannah. The most notorious one is the case involving Morgan Harrington, who was missing back in 2009, and then after 3 months they found her body. But they never solved that case, so they still have a number of open missing persons cases down there.
And am I correct that Harrington's girl's T-shirt was found not far from where Hannah Graham disappeared?
You're exactly right, Brian. As a matter of fact, I was in Charlottesville last week, and it's only about maybe a half a block away. One other thing real quickly, since we're talking proximity to where everything is found, Matthews, his apartment, and I actually went there when the police went to execute that warrant. Matthews' apartment is less than a block away from the restaurant from where Hannah was last seen. Interesting connection here, because a lot of people have been saying, why would Hannah even be in that area? Well, guess what? She could have been in that area to see him, and maybe that's why she met up with him at the mall. We don't know, but I think that's very interesting.
What does this guy do? What does he do?
He works at the local hospital there. He's a nursing assistant. When the police executed the search warrant, they actually took out cleaning chemicals from his home. They don't know if he used those cleaning chemicals to clean up a scene, but that's going to be part of the investigation.
Yeah. All right. Rod Wheeler, very helpful to hear your expertise on this matter. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, guys.